So this is going to be the third time that I have tried filming this review. The other two times my phone, yes, my phone. I can't afford a real camera yet, maybe one day in my dreams. The other two times my phone decided to mess up the audio so it's out of sync with the video, and I am not a good enough editor to know how to make that not be a problem. So those other two times are just garbage. Bye. So let's get on with it, shall we? The third time that I'm going to review A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan. This is an adult fantasy that takes place in a world very, very similar to Victorian England, but it is not. All the countries and continents and names of different places are completely different. But again, we do have kind of that rigid social structure and those social mores that are pressed upon people. They are very similar to the ones encountered in Victorian England. In this story, we follow Isabella. We see the beginnings of her life as a child and then eventually growing up and her fascination with dragons. Unfortunately, that isn't favorably looked upon by the society, and she's pressured to kind of give up her love of dragons. When she is 17 years old, she meets Jacob and she marries him. Then when she is 19, she and Jacob go on an expedition to a foreign country to study dragons. Overall, I enjoyed this book. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 and rounded up to 4 on Goodreads. The reason that I didn't give it a full 4, I think, is because there were some things that I was not expecting was a little different than I thought it was going to be. So the first thing for me was the lack of dragons. So there's a dragon on the cover, and it's called Natural History of Dragons, and you know what? We didn't get a lot of dragons. Yep. So basically, even though they go on this trip, this expedition to kind of observe the dragons and find out more about them, it's interrupted by a mystery. Their contact in this foreign country is missing. They can't seem to find him. Nobody knows where he is. And then there's a whole nother subplot with some smugglers happening. And this story is much more focused on the people and the mystery of the town and the country than it is on the dragons themselves. We do get some different cameos from the dragons. There definitely is some page time for them, but it's not nearly as in-depth. I thought that we were really going to kind of get into dragon hierarchy and dragon social structure and talk about biology and physiology, and we don't get that. I guess I'm too big of a nerd for that. I thought that that would have been really cool. Though I was invested in this kind of mystery. That did keep me intrigued. I was interested in it. It just, like I said, wasn't what I was expecting. The other thing is actually Isabella herself. I was expecting a more Amelia Peabody type character, and while I will say the narrator definitely does have that Amelia Peabody-esque voice, or kind of the Mary Russell, Sherlock Holmes first-person voice, but maybe a little less prudish, the character herself in this book is actually very naive and willing to yield to society's dictates. So I found that really kind of interesting. I was expecting someone older and a little bit more self-assured and independent and not caring about society's mores. Unfortunately, we have somebody that isn't like that, but of course I can see, because the narrator eventually does become like that, that will be the overarching plot for this character throughout the entire series, so I'll be looking forward to that. The other thing is, I did not expect her to be married. I thought maybe there would be a love affair, but she gets married within like the first 30 pages. It's kind of crazy, and then she's with her husband Jacob throughout. And that, again, it was fine. I didn't hate it. I just was not expecting that. The other thing that wasn't 100% wonderful for me was the ending. I am a big lover of happily ever afters, and there is not one of those in this. I obviously don't want to go into spoilers, but it did kind of take me aback, and I wasn't expecting it. And so it just wasn't what I personally wanted. I can understand what the author was trying to do and create for this character, but I just, like I said, I wasn't expecting it. Again, bucking those expectations. So overall, I definitely enjoyed it, and I want to continue on with the series. I think there's a lot of great things here. I love the narrator's voice. Again, it has that same wonderful, eccentric feel of something like Amelia Peabody or Mary Russell, and I can't wait to see how this progresses. I also now know what is important in this series, so we're focusing a little bit more on the characters and perhaps more mysteries rather than the dragons themselves. They're kind of more like a tool for exploring these characters. and I can't wait to see what happens in the future, so I'm excited to take a look at the rest of this series. Have any of you read A Natural History of Dragons or any of the other books in the series? I'd love to know what you think of them, so please leave me a comment down below if you have. If you haven't already, please subscribe. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye!